Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for yet another live Chelsea preview, but this time not a Premier League preview, a live Champions League preview as Chelsea are to take on Atletico Madrid away from home, but not in Madrid, instead in Bucharest tomorrow evening, with the kickoff being at 8 p.m. UK time. And what a huge game that is. What a huge game that is. We really want to get past the round of 16 for the first time since the 13-14 season. We have a lot to discuss. And to do so, we're joined by two very special guests. Lewis should be joining us later on as well. But first of all, Matisse, it's been a minute. How you been, bro?
Good, bro. Very good, very good. Big game. I've been looking forward to this congested fixture list that we've got coming up with the Man Uniteds of this world, Atletico. I've been looking forward to it. So yeah, I'm ready to get stuck in.
Exactly, that's it. Obviously, Southampton was, if you will, kind of the start of this whole, how does Stammy call it? The Hell's Gate or whatever he says. The just awfully bad, tough run of fixtures. But at the same time, it's exciting. And if we can come out the other end with some positive results, it will only, more than just kickstart the season, even if that, we've kind of done that in the last few weeks already. But I'm excited for it. I'm more than just excited for it, honestly. And to talk some Atletico Madrid, I've brought the man himself, Mr. EuroExpert. He calls him that. So, hey, if we're playing in Europe, we need to bring on the EuroExpert. So, Alex, how are you? Glad to have you on. Hope you're well.
I think you summed up pretty well there. I am great. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to come on this channel. It's one of my favourite things to do. But yeah, I'm going to be toying with your guys. I know you guys are very anxious about getting through around 16 for Chelsea. It's a bit more of a neutral. I'm going to have fun a bit toying with some positive and negative sides of Atletico Madrid. And it's going to be interesting to see if Chelsea can get through. I'll say that much.
It really will be. Obviously, like I touched on already, it isn't an away game for... Well, no, it is an away game for us, but it's also an away game for Atletico Madrid. But the away goal rule only goes for us. So it is a little bit of an advantage. How much? We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, it's without fans, so less so than obviously if it would be normal times, shall we say. But it's still, it's a big game. We obviously got some information from Thomas Tuchel's press conference earlier. Thiago Silva is still out. Not great news. And positive news are that Christian Pulisic and Kai Havertz have both travelled. Whether they're fit to start or not, we don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But there's still some positive. And before doing anything else, and I kind of want to touch it to Lewis later on again as well, but I've read something very depressing just like half an hour ago, and I want to put it to you, Matisse. Obviously, Alex won't care much, but the fact that we're going into tomorrow's game with the same back three that played against Barcelona when we got battered 3-0 at the Camp Nou is very depressing. Where is the progress? Why do we have the same back three? That's ridiculous.
Same back three, same left wing back as well in Alonso. This club just have not spent enough on centre backs. If we're keeping it real, they bought Rudiger for 32 million from Roma, and they bought David Luiz, I think, from PSG for around similar fee. And that was it. Yeah. That was it. They bought no one else. You look at who's there. Zuma, been here a very long time, since he was 18 from Saint Etienne. Christensen came through the ranks. Who else have we got? Thiago Silva's the only new purchase, and he was on a free. He's obviously unavailable. Rudiger's obviously involved in that as well. So we just shipped out Tomori, who was an academy product. So we don't purchase centre backs. We haven't improved in that area apart from Thiago Silva since those other two that I mentioned. So to be going in with the same back three is just you're expecting a masterclass or a miracle from the mediocre. That's really what you're looking for. So it's to go into a game like this without Thiago Silva, with the likes of Luis Suarez in hot form in La Liga for them this season, João Felix, who will be in the pockets trying to move shape and disturb the defense as well in between the lines. It really is a recipe for issues. I'm not going to say disaster, but definitely big problems ahead. So I'm not confident with that back three, but I am a bit more confident when you take Zuma out of the middle and put Christensen in. I thought the goal at the weekend was a joke that we conceded. Zuma was just sleeping. He should never really be in the middle of a back three for me. He doesn't have any of the traits that you look for in a centre-back that plays in the middle. Not a ball-playing centre-back, not positionally great either. Not a Silva, not a Christensen, not a David Luiz under Conte. So I never understood that, but now I get it. Silva's not available, so you have to rest Christensen and you put Zuma there. It was never going to work with whoever you put in there, but it was a poor goal to concede. So hopefully we can improve slightly, but it's going to be a long day.
It will be a long day. It will be a tough game. Obviously, there is some positives. There is some negatives. Before we actually get into talking about the Atletico game in specific, I kind of want to touch on a couple of things that Tuchel said post the Southampton game, but it was in the like embargo bit of the press conference, so it only came out late last night. But by the way, guys, if you're watching this right now, big up yourself. First of all, subscribe if you haven't already. Also, if you're watching this later on when this has turned into a video, subscribe. We're on the road to 10K. So let's make that happen as soon as possible. Smash the like button. And of course, check out Matisse on YouTube. The man's already hit the 10K, but that doesn't mean he wants to stop there. So, subscribe, help him grow and grow and grow. And the same goes for Alex, of course. Check out his Twitter. It's linked down in the description as well. So check both of these guys out. And of course, if you want to become a member, click the join button underneath. If you have anything really important to say, use the super chat function. But what Thomas Tuchel said after the game is two things that I was slightly surprised by. A lot of people will agree with Tuchel in the sense of how incredible Kante was. I didn't think it was that incredible. Yeah, in terms of winning the ball back, rarely seen him better. But he won the ball and then gave it away 9 times out of 10. Whether it was with a heavy touch or a poor pass. And I'm like, it's great that he wins the ball back. But it's kind of like, you can't, in a team sport of 11 men, when the opponent has 11 men as well, you can't have one guy that only wins it back but can't do anything with it then. Especially when he's as high up the pitch as Kante was, in my opinion. But Tuchel praised him very highly. And even more surprisingly, he said he learned a lot about Kazuma. I was like, okay, he's going to go in on him now. But no, man said he was brilliant and was very happy with him and he was great. I'm like, what? How have you come to that conclusion?
He did throw some things left field that I didn't expect. Those were obviously two of the things as well. And then obviously Hudson-Odoi, we all saw him take him off in the game, sub him off when he subbed him on. I thought that was a little bit harsh. He did say that it might have been harsh. I thought it was just a bit over the top. For me, if you're going to do that, I've said it before, they've got to be dropping a 0. And then when I'm seeing the likes of Marcos Alonso on the pitch and you're not taking him off and you're talking about effort and dedication and desire and all these things and he's still on the pitch, that doesn't make any sense to me. You're talking about Zuma having a great game, made a massive mistake for the goal. And then if you watch the goal as well, he's jogging back. He's jogging back. He's jogging back like as if it's not an emergency, like as if he's not just made a positional error and like as if he can't get back into position. Watch Minamino's shot. It takes a while for him to get the shot off. It wasn't just a clean run on through and then he smashes it. He tried to drag it back and there was an opportunity for Zuma to get back into position and maybe do something about it. But he was jogging. He was, again, ball watching. So I wasn't impressed with him for the goal. I know other than that, he had a decent game, I guess. We didn't concede any more goals, but the finer details in football is the fact that we conceded 1 goal and it was his fault. So I don't know how he had a great game. And then Alonso, I don't know how he stayed on for 90 minutes. He was just dreadful. Do you know what I mean? And that's, in saying that, he'll probably go and score against Atletico now. That's just how he rolls.
Yeah, that's the thing. I completely agree. I do actually like the ruthlessness of Tuchel in terms of Callum Hudson-Odoi. I do like that. If he, as the manager, thinks you're not working hard enough and you're coming straight back off, I think it could actually do him really well. Hence why the title of my thumbnail says Hudson-Odoi Unleashed, because that's exactly what I think it will actually do to him. But exactly like you said, Matisse, Alonso was on the pitch. If everyone else was doing their jobs well and was playing well and Callum was doing what he was doing, then take him off, fine. But not when other players are playing much worse than Callum was when he was on the pitch. And, Tuchel, like you said, hinted on it, maybe it was a bit harsh. And maybe even the fact that he was on his side, Callum obviously playing on the right, that was Tuchel's managerial side in the second half. The fact that maybe it was more obvious to him because it was closer to him that Callum did things wrong than Alonso, who was obviously on the far side in the second half. Maybe those kind of things come into it and you kind of have to, if you've ever sat in like a first row on a football pitch, whether it was behind the goal or on the side, you struggle to see what's happened on the other side of the pitch a little bit more. And the manager is in the same situation. So maybe we'll have to let him off for this one. Especially the Zuma one really surprised me. I still don't think he'll start tomorrow, but the fact that he bigged him up in that press conference, I didn't see coming. I absolutely didn't see coming. But of course, the man himself has joined us. Lewis, how are you? And of course, like I said, guys, subscribe to him as well. His link is, of course, down in the description as well.
Yeah, I'm good. What's everyone saying? Everyone good?
All good, man. Nervous as hell.
Nervous as hell. I'm low-key cautiously optimistic. I'm in a bit of two feelings about it because neither team's looking in great form. Both teams has holes in them in some aspects. Both teams aren't really sure what lineup they're going to drop for this game as well. And I think it's going to be a tight game throughout the 90 minutes. The only thing that makes me nervous is our final third. Are we going to be clinical? Because Chelsea, we know, are never clinical. And we need to take our chance when they come in this game. Because we're not going to get a lot of chances, even with Jimenez out, injured for this game as well. And the other players they got out. It still doesn't mean too much about it. And I'm not looking at Atletico Madrid's recent form as anything to be massively optimistic about. Obviously, they're not in good form, and we can try capitalize on that. That's because of all the issues they've had off the pitch and all the problems they've had surrounding the virus and everything like that as well. And that's probably impacting their form. But same way, they had, 20, 30 shots on goal in their last game. So even if they're going to play defensive against us, I still don't expect their attack to be completely toothless. I expect them to cause us problems. But with us playing three at the back, we should be solid at the back as well. We'll have a ball-playing centre-back in Christensen. It made sense that he wasn't going to be playing in the last game if Silva wasn't going to make it for this match either. So I wasn't that worried about him getting benched in the first place. But we've got three centre-backs that will be confident in themselves. It's just minimise the errors, which, to be honest, we've been good at in the last few games compared to the entire season. It's just been Zuma shouldn't have played in the middle of the back three, and we all know that. It is what it is. We'll brush past that and move on because I don't think Zuma will be seen in the middle of a back three anymore, so we don't have to worry too much on that. Other than that, the only real defensive mistake we've had is the Rudiger own goal. And we've been really solid since then. So I'm really confident in our defense going into this game. It's just the final third that worries me.
That is true. And before I give the floor to Alex almost to give us a few more details about Atletico, I do want to put something to you that I've already put to these guys before you hopped on. I'm not sure if you realized, but we're going into tomorrow's game with the same back three as we had when we got battered 3-0 in Barcelona. First of all, I'm depressed. And secondly, bloody hell, we haven't signed enough centre-backs. And Matisse said this earlier. Since Rudiger and David Luiz, we ain't signed a centre-back. Yeah, Thiago Silva, but it was on a free. We haven't spent money on a centre-back since David Luiz. Like, that's mental.
There's still heavy Courtois attacks in that game, so I'm not even thinking too much on it.
No.
Sorry, man. I can't account for our keeper opening his legs up like some goals in Amsterdam do. I'm good.
Do you remember the home game?
Home game, yeah. William playing crossbar counter the game, and then Messi got a jammy goal. I can't speak on who was to blame for it though.
Yeah, someone has got involved.
It's rare mistake.
Prefer not to.
Hey, remontada's coming, man. We already said 2021 year of the AC Hive.
Oh man, God help us all.
I've got your ticket saved. Don't worry, bro.
God help us all.
We're all there, bro. Like, hey, if he drops a masterclass tomorrow, I think we're all jumping on the train. I've jumped on it already. When man tried to do a John Terry heading tackle while lying on the floor, I joined the train. Have I hopped on since? I don't know, but I've certainly joined it for the time being. Anyway, Joy, let me get to Alex. Why don't you tell us a few things about Atletico? Obviously, a couple of things that are fact, right? Carrasco is out. Jose Maria Jimenez is out. 2 big losses for Atletico Madrid. Savic is back, so they're probably expected to stick with their back three and their 3-1-4-2 system, whatever you want to call it. But it will be interesting. It will be certainly interesting who will play as their left wing back. Brajalko is out as well, if I'm not mistaken. So they're kind of forced to put Marcus Llorente, I guess, on the right side. So it will be interesting. And their form has dipped a little recently. But that doesn't mean they're not a good team. They have an unbelievable manager. They're probably the only good team, other than Chelsea, and we stopped doing it, that are a really good team by playing defensive football. And it's a rare thing. But they do it. They stick by it, and they have for a decade, and they've been to Champions League finals. They've won Europa Leagues. They're still top of La Liga, even though they've started to drop points recently. They're a good team, and they definitely shouldn't be underestimated by anybody. But Alex, give us a little bit more.
Okay, right. I've got a lot on them, so I'm not going to go straight through it all the way right now. You can open to questions about them because I've got a lot of answers. But I think this game will be, it'll be won with a few players. So I think, on a Chelsea perspective, Marcos Alonso cannot start here. What Atletico like to do is you mentioned just now about Marcus Llorente, he will play on the right-hand side. That's actually a good tactic Simeone does. Now, Marcus Llorente, everyone remembered him against Liverpool, right? When he pushed through late on an extra time and scored pretty nice goal. Marcus Llorente is a really good player who makes late runs. Now, he will probably team up with Angel Correa, a player who feels like he's been around for decades now. He's still in his mid-20s, and he's having a good season at the moment. It's really important creatively for Atletico, but those two will team up more on the right-hand side. And Alonso, as a left wing-back, I think you guys will all back it up. You've got the horror stories of Alonso. He looks like he's trying to sprint, but really he's like an old man walking. he can't be caught out in this game against Atletico because he needs to be on it. But on the other side, I think Chelsea are actually set up, and Lewis has mentioned it there, he's cautiously optimistic. There's good reason for that. So I think Chelsea is set up to contain Atletico's second best threat, which is João Felix. Now, Felix he's listed as a striker, but he likes to drop left, a bit like Timo Werner, but he scores more. And Felix he's been probably Atletico's most important player in terms of getting the ball, receiving it, a bit like how Mount does to Chelsea, and turning and making things happen. Luckily for Chelsea, they've got Azpilicueta on that right-hand side and probably Reece James. Now, these two should be really good at containing that threat and getting back and making sure Felix is going to be... I think Felix could probably face his toughest night in an Atletico shirt, and that's just from what I think of what Chelsea can do. But at the same time, in more general things, this is still going to be a really tough game for Chelsea. Atletico are the sort of team that you can't give them a moment's glimpse. Luis Suarez is having one of the best seasons of his career. He's scored 16 goals, 2 assists in 18 starts, right? And he does this really unique thing that I haven't seen many strikers do. So you think of any team having a defensive line, and then the players try to usually beat it. I mean, Werner continuously gets offside, but what Suarez does, he hangs about 10 yards offside. And the reason he does that is so Atletico attack down the wings, they cross in, and by the time the defensive got back, Suarez is onside and taps in for a low cross. And that's something Chelsea have to be wary of. And Atletico, we've mentioned they've only won one of their last 4 games, but I think I have it down here. They've made it to the quarterfinals or better in 5 of the last 7 Champions League seasons. So they are used to going deep into this competition. And Chelsea need to be, as I just said, they need to be on it to make sure it doesn't happen. But I think they're one of the best teams set up to counter them.
I do agree. I think there's a lot of, obviously we've spoken about this on Lewis's channel when I was on there for the last 20 minutes earlier. The fact that I would probably prefer to go with Chilwell at left wing back, just because I don't trust Alonso's defensive. And as much as he can get us a goal, all well and good, but it's not worth it there. Wide on the left side, Carrasco is out, so a bit of less attacking threat down the left. Obviously, you have Felix to push us wide, but that's why we play a back 3 to kind of cover for that a little bit. Hence why I would go with Callum Hudson-Odoi as a right wing back. We'll go for predicted 11s and teams that we want to see in just a moment. But there is a lot of interesting things. And one question that I'd have for you, Alex, if you know, how do you see the midfield situation going? Obviously, we don't know how Chelsea are going to line up. Is Kante going to play? Who's Kante going to play with? Is he going to change to a midfield 3? But I don't think so, because it's impossible to drop Mount, especially against an Atletico. That's probably like the game where you need Mount in your team to have some sort of intensity and passion. And I know like from the Gary Cahill days, Mr. Passion and whatever. Like I get it, but against Atletico, that's actually a big deal. But how do you think the midfield situation going? Obviously, they've got Kondogbia. Either Saul or Koke might push out unless it's Lodi at left wing back. But how do you see the midfield situation going, depending on who Chelsea play there?
So I think, Chelsea should be sticking to their double pivot, whether that is Kovacic, Jorginho, or Kovacic, Kante, one of those setups. But I think Atletico, they will probably start with Saul Niguez and Koke midfield. And to tell you a bit about those two, they're not defensively, they're not like Conte's, they're not destroyers in midfield. If Atletico wanted that, they could bring on Lucas Torreira or Kondogbia, just like you mentioned. But I think Atletico are actually going to play sort of like a front 3. And it's going to be interesting, the fact that Atletico should set up, at least like formational-wise, very similar to Chelsea. I don't think they're going to have a holding midfielder. It's going to be 2 of Niguez and Koke. And then you're going to have some form of Felix, Suarez, and Correa up front. So, and with the midfield situation, I think in terms of the battle as well, I think Chelsea, you just mentioned there about Mount and his passion and everything. I think, I'm not sure what you guys think with Tyson Lewis. So at the weekend, I know Mount gets criticised, but I thought he was brilliant at the weekend, picking up the ball and turning and looking to make things happen. Obviously, he's still young, so the things he tries to make happen don't always come off. But he should be really good at, it should be really vital against Atletico for this. Because from watching them, the one thing that I think they are quite vulnerable at is actually their defenders individually. They have a really good structure, but none of their defenders win more than 55% of their duels, like on the ground duels. So when you actually go in 1v1 against them, around half the time they're getting beaten. And what Chelsea need to do is get in behind their midfielders, Niguez and Koke, and drive straight at the heart of the defence. And I think Tuchel will be looking to do that. So
this is
go on.
This is where the likes of Mason Mount in that right channel, when he gets into the box, he's quite good 1v1 at times, draws fouls in that Southampton game as well. Hudson-Odoi, another one who 1v1 should be able to square up against someone and go past them if you're saying that, you know, the ground duels is going to be a difficult situation for them. So we've got players that can go 1v1. We actually have more than those two, but those are the only two that are really in any sort of form or playing well. You know, Hudson-Odoi got dragged last game. I'm interested to see who he plays up front, because Tammy wasn't great. Werner's making the runs, but our players are not seeing it some of the time as well, which is very, very frustrating. I saw last game, Reece James on the right-hand side, opportunity to slip Werner through, and he checks back in and finds Mount, and then we give the ball away. Mount, again, you know, at a point as well, could have found Tammy, decided to go Reece and wasn't weighted properly, and it was behind him. So our decision-making in the final third is becoming a massive issue. And obviously Tuchel mentioned that final 20 metres, Chelsea are just not clinical enough, not experienced enough in decision making, what pass to make, how to weight the pass as well, which is key. The weight of the pass is wrong half the time. So this could be a game of missed opportunities for us if we don't go up a few gears to what we've seen. That's where Marcos Alonso comes in. People obviously say they may not want him starting. I don't ever really want to see him play, and I don't really want him at the club, to be honest. But one thing Marcos Alonso will bring is end product. He had that shot in the first half against Southampton that just went wide, you know, connected with it well. But we know he's got a goal in him. We know, especially, you know, in this fixture as well. I think last time we played you guys, he was playing, and he did turn up when we beat you at the Metropolitan. I think Morata and Batshuayi got the goals. Bakayoko played, Alonso played. It was a mad team. So we need a goal, and you know he is one of our main goal outlets. So I don't know if he's going to get dropped. I'm very worried about this team being too defensive and having Reece James and then a Chilwell at wing back, and then having the back three, and then, you know, the two in the midfield, if it's Jorginho and Kova, have no goal threat as well. And then suddenly you've got barely any goal scorers on the pitch in a team that doesn't score anyway, has poor output and decision making anyway, and needs an away goal, if we're being honest, to get through this tie. Last thing you want to do in a game like this is draw 0-0. Or just not score at all. We don't score in this game, for me, we're going to go out 100%.
That's it.
And on that,
that's what I touched on Lewis's channel earlier already. A 0-0 is like, of course, it's not as bad as getting battered, right? But it's the next worst thing. Like, we cannot be too defensive in this game. And yes, obviously, we need to make sure that we don't concede like more than one, let's say, right? But a 0-0 draw, going there and being too defensive is, in my opinion, the last thing we need to do and should be doing. But what you touched on it, who do we think, or who do we think will start up from? That is the interesting question, because especially after what Alex just said, that says to me, Javier is about the last guy that should start. And because if we need to beat these guys one-on-one, well, that ain't Javier now, is it? And if we put crosses in the box, yes, he's good in the air, but he's up against three players to win the ball in the air. So as good as he is, that's difficult. Even if you had Drogba up front, if your opponent has three centre-backs that are all good in the air, then you're going to, you know, it's not going to be easy for any striker. It doesn't matter who they are. The big question just is, are Pulisic and or Kai Havertz fit to start? Because if Kai is, as much as he hasn't played there really for us at all, and, you know, hasn't played full stop for a little while with his obviously injury concerns, I would love a Kai Havertz as a kind of a false nine, then Werner dropping off the left and Mount dropping off the right, and then bring Pulisic on to bring another one that's even better in the 1v1s, bring him on to try and exploit as much as we can. And like Michael's donation here was, big of yourself, by the way. Random question to start in at the very start of the stream, but hey, here we go. Who wins and who gets us the goal if it's tied 0-0? Clearly American, with 10 minutes left. Who do you reckon? Just a quick answer, and then we'll just move on with the rest of the chat. Who are you saying for that, Lewis? Who do you think gets us a winner if we have one in the last 10 minutes?
God knows. Anybody, really. Especially with our team, to be honest. Literally everyone pops up with a goal at some point. Someone off a header. I was about to say Tammy, but lol. Giroud, maybe. Zuma. Danish Maldini, anybody, someone off a header.
Well, Danish Maldini, probably not. Hasn't he
Perfect
never
time
scored
for
for
the
Chelsea?
first goal, isn't it?
I'm pretty sure he's never scored for Chelsea, you know.
Perfect time to start.
You know, fair play. I know that Michael is hinting at Pulisic because he's basically best mates with him. That's how much he loves him. But who do you reckon, Matisse? Like, if there's one to score as a late winner, who's that?
I can't look any further than Mason Mount, because if you're looking for someone who's going to keep going into the end, then that's literally that's definition by name. So that's the only brother I see where, regardless of what's going on in the game, even if we're 3-0 down or 2-0 down, at the very end, he's still going to be going. I saw it against Fulham. I saw it against Leicester when Lampard got really his last game. I saw it now against Sheffield United where he scored as well. And I saw him win the penalty and score in the last game as well. So I have to go Mason Mount, to be honest.
I would agree. Alex, obviously a neutral, neither club. But if you had one Chelsea player that you'd think would score that winner, who do you think it would be?
I tell you what, my answer would be, I don't know exactly which player, but my answer would be really clear. Whoever's got the best shots on target ratio, because if it's all right, I'll lead into the next point quickly about Atletico. We've mentioned how you don't want it to be 0-0. Atletico probably have the best defense in the world at the moment. So whoever's up front needs to take their chances. Oblak, for a quick stat, he saves 84%. I think it's 80% of the shots he faces. So 1 in 5 on target, he's saving. And
man,
Atletico, I think they played.
We're winning.
Atletico have played something like 28 games this season. They've conceded 14 goals. So yeah, maybe a Timo Werner or someone if he's got his confidence flowing. Maybe he's got an open now.
You've been watching us, bro.
Have you seen us play?
What are you talking about?
Oh my god!
Do you know what? Even when this brother was confident at Leipzig, his shot conversion rate was still iffy. We are screwed after hearing that. I'm ready to start packing down my stuff. You know what I mean? I fell. Maybe that's God just saying we need to go.
Yeah, off we go. I've got it, bro.
That's God saying re-sign Diego Costa on a free in 24 hours. Let's see who could actually get a goal. Mason Mount's a good shout. I'm low-key thinking if we can take these lot on 1v1s, I want to try and find a way to get Pulisic or Ziyech into the lineup as well.
Oh god!
So Ziyech's form,
God!
Don't
Ziyech,
justify
did you see him last game?
Yeah, I just said his form don't justify it. But
God,
an on-form Ziyech, I would have loved to see in this sort of game, but it's a sticky one. Maybe he'd suit as a substitute appearance for this game, but the form's just stinky right now.
Yeah, I would say I think Chelsea's best possible lineup, because we said about the one-on-ones, and also to hit on that as well to give you guys a bit more hope. Atletico, whenever they've conceded this season, it's mostly been from the same sort of thing. It's been when they've been caught on the break, which Atletico they will be pushing forward this game, so that's still likely. They've been caught on the break, and a player gets down the line and in behind the defence a little bit, and a low cross comes in. So I think the best lineup would actually be Hudson-Odoi at right wing back, because you've got Aspi behind him covering, and then some form each. Even if you want to drop Werner, you could have. Well, you probably won't, but a front three of at least Mount, Pulisic, and Werner, or Mount, Hudson-Odoi, Werner. Like you guys saying, I don't think Tammy or Giroud are suited to this game. I mean, I mentioned about the ground duels, like Atletico. The Atletico defenders are losing about 50% of the time they go against a defender. But in the air, they're winning about 65% of their headers, which is quite a high number. So if Chelsea are going to do the games of earlier this season where it goes inside, outside, cross, comes back out, they're not going to score this game. But if they make the vertical passes and they can drive straight to the defence, I actually think Chelsea have a better chance than you guys might be willing to give credit for at the moment.
I can already see Thomas Tuchel stood on the sidelines and going like that all the time. They're going to run, go, go, go. That's what I can already see him do all bloody game long. But Alex, do you just want to explain for people watching quickly, like who you support, who you are quickly, because people might not.
Yeah, sure. I'm a neutral, so I don't actually really support anyone. I mean, I have a good interest in Chelsea, but I don't follow the club enough or love the club enough like these guys to claim myself as a fan. I'm not at these guys' level. And I mean, last season I was quite fancy in Liverpool. This season I like Leeds and Lille. Next season I'll probably like PSG or something. So I just kind of bounce around a bit. to answer your question.
There you go. And Lewis, obviously, with everything that Alex has said already now, how do you think? Obviously, we spoke and touched on it on your channel already, but is there any? And someone said it in the chat earlier, like change of system. Is that a thing you would even consider, or do you think it's too drastic to do right now? Because obviously, we haven't really changed the system other than for the second half against Barnsley.
Maybe. I mean, this is the thing with Tuchel. Like, you can't predict what he's going to do. And I like that as well. Like, we could see us play 4 at the back in this game. We could throw out a surprise like that. We could go 5 at the back, and I low-key think we are, because I've been saying all the games that we've had leading up to this have kind of been like dress rehearsals for the real thing. So it doesn't make sense that we would switch from 5 at the back. But if we do, I mean, I'll take it. Like, Tuchel hasn't surprised me or made me feel worried or anything in the last 5 games. Southampton lineup aside, but it is what it is, I guess. It just looked like we didn't take that game with as much importance as we should, which is annoying, but we'll take it and we'll move, because at the very least we didn't lose from it. But we could change the system. We really could. We could play 4 at the back. We could play 5 at the back.
Yeah, I mean, that is a fair point. Like I said already, I just can't see him doing it for the first time, in particular without Thiago Silva. And I guess that's where we should probably get to a mix of what we would like and predicted 11s. And I'll go to you first, Matisse. I think we are all pretty confident that Mendy will start in goal. I think if we stick to a back 3, I think we all pretty much know that it's going to be Rudiger, Christensen, Aspie. But further forward than that, what do you want and what do you think we'll see in terms of midfield, the wing backs, and the front 3 as well?
If we're going to play Chilwell, which I would like to see, because I'm not a big fan of Alonso at all, period. If we're going to play Chilwell, then I'd want to see Hudson-Odoi right wing back, because I do want there to be at least one wing back who goes forward and is an attacking threat in the opposition's box. And if we're going to play Alonso, then maybe you go Reece James. But I'd prefer Chilwell and Hudson-Odoi if I'm picking. And then the midfield, Jorginho and Kovacic for me have to come back in. I know everybody wants to get Kante into this team, but Kante was good in isolation against Southampton, but he did have a few moments where he gave the ball away. And on top of that as well, he just doesn't have the chemistry that Jorginho and Kova have. And midfield is all about a partnership. You know, you can't do it on your own. You need a partnership, and those two have shown that they have a partnership and they've been good together. So I'd put them back in. I don't think Koke and, Niguez are exactly, if they're not exactly Michael Essien, mobility-wise, we should be able to handle it. If Mason Mount's in there helping out as well, it's not like we're going up against Partey of last season. So we shouldn't be dominated physically or, mobility-wise in that respect. And then for me, front 3, if I'm to have any hope, I'd probably have Mason Mount, Timo Werner, and then, just risk Kai Havertz in the false 9, because you don't know what you're going to get. You could get a great performance in that role with Timo Werner, or you could get a horror show, but you don't know what you're going to get. Ziyech, you know what you're going to get at the moment. He's not playing well. Pulisic, you know what you're going to get at the moment. He's not playing well. So I would just go with the wild card. And, we spoke about having some sort of pace up front. Kai Havertz is a quick player. He's got some sort of heading ability. Should have good link-up play. Can shoot. So again, he should have everything going for him to play that position. So I would just give him a go, because I don't really have any confidence in anybody else, or anyone for that matter. That's why I'm going with him. He's not a striker, but we're going with him anyway, because we've got strikers that are not really firing. So
exactly, and it allows us to, even though Mount obviously isn't 100% suited to that, but it allows us to kind of do what we did against Spurs when Mount was in the middle and played that false 9, number 10 mix. And Kai could do that, even though, like I said, Mount isn't 100% suited to playing a right striker role, but it could shift from a 3-4-2-1 to a 3-4-1-2 very easily and comfortably. And you have obviously the wide 10s or wide inside forwards, whatever you want to call them, run and, exploit some space. And as much as maybe that might be a little bit boring for the stream right now, completely agree with what Matisse said. So I don't really have anything else to add. That's exactly what I would love to see. But Lewis, do you have any problems with that? I know you're more tending towards the Reece James rather than Callum. And anything else? Do you have any different opinions to us here, or would you agree otherwise?
Nah, low-key, I'm feeling now that Alonso's I feel even less confident in Alonso starting this match as Chilwell. I'd rather have Hudson-Odoi playing on the right-hand side. Midfield, I already want it to just be Jovic. Matisse explained it perfectly. I thought, what's his name? Kante was really good in terms of breaking up play. And yeah, his individual performance was great. I don't want to slate his Southampton performance, but he did just give the ball away too many times for my liking. And I know Jorginho and Kovacic together, it would be a lot more solid, and we retain possession a lot more better, and we do more of the possession a lot better. So I think Jovic has to play in that one. Chilwell, I think, probably will still be better off going forward, but defensively he's 10 times better than Marcus Alonso will ever be, and will cover ground miles better. So I want him in there. And Hudson-Odoi speaks for itself, especially if we're saying that now we can try and attack the Atletico defenders a lot more 1v1. I want Callum Hudson-Odoi in that game because I know he can do some damage in that match. There's not really a way that maybe there's a way we can fit Pulisic into this game, because I feel like 1v1s it would really suit him. But the front three is just a big question mark in itself because there's so many different options.
Yeah,
I mean, realistically, go on first. Go.
So someone in the chat said that Kai Havertz is only just coming back, so it's very unlikely he's going to hit form. Bro, I know, I completely agree with you, but we're literally with our hands tied behind our backs here. Who else do you want to play? Do you know what I mean? We don't have that many options. If you go Chilwell and Reece James at wing back, you are setting yourself up to just be way too defensive. I know they can go forward, but for me, I'm not a big fan of Reece James at right wing back. I've said that ever since it really started. And Chilwell, we don't even know if he can even play there that well because he hasn't played at all. So we're going with the unknown there. I know Kai is just coming back, and it's highly unlikely he's going to drop a good performance because he's just come back. But there's not really many options. If he's fully fit and he's back in training, I would just run with it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
For me, it's just more the confidence thing, though, because the whole thing this season has been his confidence with adapting to the Premier League and also coming back from the virus and everything. If it wasn't for that and he was more settled, I would just throw him into this game if he was ready. Anyway.
But you made a big point there. You said getting adjusted to the Premier League. We're not playing in the Premier League tomorrow.
True.
But we're playing the same sort of low block teams that we usually play in the Premier League week in and week out. If anything, we're playing the low blocks and all low blocks. That's where it's
you're right with that. I do just think, like Matisse said, would you want Tammy? No. After everything that Alex has said, would you want Giroud? No. So who's your other option? And Tuchel has said himself he doesn't really see Werner as an out-and-out as a lone striker. And that's not a thing. And for me, it's just if you put Werner with the random movement that he sometimes has and then the brilliant movement in other moments, but just zero first touch, like Lukaku United levels at times. Obviously, he has his good moments, but on average, that's what his first touch is like. There's no point having in between all the three centre-backs being the guy that at times will need to link it up as well, because that's the role of the most central player high up the pitch. He needs to link it up. Hence why I agree with Matisse. Like, if he's fit to play 45 minutes to an hour, he has to start him up.
And also, in that Southampton game, I was speaking about the players not finding his runs, and they haven't been able to find many runs. The one player that should be able to find a run is Kai Havertz. He's played with him with Germany, best friends, know each other very well. He's going to operate on that right channel. If he's a striker or false nine, he's going to drift into the right. Werner should drift into the left as he usually does. So if Kai Havertz even drops off a little bit into that pocket of space and then gets his head up for that Ziyech type ball, or just to even thread the ball in behind with his left foot into the left channel for Timo Werner coming onto his right foot, you'd expect that combination to be, regardless of form, regardless of adaptation, those two should have some sort of chemistry. That's also that's really where my point finalizes. What chemistry does Abraham have? What chemistry does Giroud have with this guy? Not really any. Do you know what I mean? We've seen glimpses against Barnsley in the League Cup first round where they scored 5, where Havertz did a dummy and it went straight. Apart from that, we've seen nothing, if we're being honest. And we're playing against top quality opposition here. So the only person I can see that has the chemistry to spot Timo Werner's runs would be Kai. So I saw Reece James mess it up. I've seen Mount mess it up. There's only Kai. So that's the only person left, really.
Yeah, I agree. I do want to touch on this quickly. The statement by Dave and a question that I got from Ryan on Twitter, and I saw it on your stream as well earlier, Lewis. A lot of people are asking, play Hudson-Odoi, Pulisic, whatever, these guys at left wing back. And Dave's comment actually helps me explain why that just doesn't work. And I'm not trying to take any offense to or offend anybody that has this opinion, but that's a stupid opinion. I'm sorry. First of all, you can't play a right-footed player as a left wing back. Left back with Aspie, that's a different situation. He was just there to sit and be more of a defensive fullback than the other side. That's a different situation. As a left wing back, that doesn't work. Plus, like Dave said, we play a 4-4-2 in a defensive shape. Even though we line up with 3 centre-backs and then 2 wing-backs, we don't defend and play as a 3. We defend as a 4-4-2. And the left wing-back drops in as a left-back, while Aspi pushes out to be a right-back, leaving the right wing-back as more of a right mid. So if you put Hudson-Odoi or Pulisic as the left wing-back, that means they end up the left-back for good parts of the game. Yes, of course, if we have the ball and attack, they're out there. That's very true. But we're still playing Atletico Madrid. As much as they're going to be defensive, they're still a really good team, bloody hell.
Just to add as well, go on. Great point. You've got Rudiger at left-sided. It's not like you have if you had a left-footed, left-sided centre-back, then you could flip everything that you've just said, we could flip it. And then the left wing-back could become the left winger. When you've got Rudiger at left-sided centre-back, who hasn't really got a left foot, you see it when he looks to pass. He always tucks back in, comes back into his right foot to pass because he's not left-footed. He's not a left-footed centre-back who's going to progress the ball and move into the space with his left foot and look to switch play with his left foot like a John Terry or even Mark Guehi at Swansea. He's not going to progress the ball with his left foot. He's going to be limited in that respect. So then to have him and then to double it up with another right footer at left wing back, that means you're having 2 right-footed players in the defensive side of the pitch. It's wild. It's really risky. I don't think people have copped onto that. If we had a seasoned Mark Guehi at left-sided centre-back who was competent, really good with his left foot ball playing wise, then it might make sense because then he could shuffle over to left back and then you could do it the opposite way around of the way you just described it. But no, we don't have that. So you have to have a left footer over there for defensive plays or it's going to be an absolute mess.
Exactly that. And Flyers has said, does Tuchel even have any plans to use Kai Havertz there? He's never spoken about that. True, he hasn't. He's also never been asked about that. Why would he just run around talking about things that he's not been asked about? So
journalists ask about Mason Mount every game. So
yeah, true.
That was weird though. Today, one of the journalists asked about Kai Havertz and Pulisic, and are they fine? And is there anybody else, any other injury problems? And he didn't comment on the latter part of the question. Obviously, the journalist didn't push it, but still, I just wanted to bring that up quickly. To talk more about our defensive side of the game, I want to get to Alex quickly. Obviously, you touched on how Atletico, like to attack, and with Felix drifting a little bit, and Suarez being one of the best strikers in the world, even though he's maybe not quite as fit anymore as he used to be, and doesn't quite run as hard and press as hard anymore as he did at Barcelona. Also, Atletico don't press that much anyway, so not really necessary. But when he gets into positions, the man will finish. End of discussion. And the one thing that we don't have, Atletico have with Suarez. But how do you see Atletico causing us the biggest issues, other than with Llorente on the right, which you touched on, and Felix obviously in his drifting role and being the great player that he is?
I've actually got their lineup up here if you want me to share the screen, so I guess people can see exactly what.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, okay. Here we go. Yeah, this should be shared. Okay, right. You can see this all up here now. Yeah.
Now they can.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so as we said, so Felix, you're going to see him drift around here. And I think that on that side, Atletico, they're not going to be too deadly against Chelsea. As I said, Azpilicueta will be able to help contain them. The issue, I did mention it, but it helped to visualize it, will be on this left side. Now, we might see Atletico do play a holding midfielder, so this player Correa won't exist. But the predicted lineup is that Correa will play in behind these two. And what you might see is Alonso or Chilwell on the left, and these guys, Llorente and Correa, pushing forward and causing them havoc here because they like to underlap and overlap, switching around, and it causes a lot of confusion for opposition teams. And it caused a bit of confusion for Bayern Munich in their early UCL game. Now, this is actually where I just wanted to mention that I think Chelsea can exploit this. So I saw a couple of comments. I saw Ben Russell actually as well in the comments saying Chelsea, it's going to be 90% possession for Chelsea and no end product. And one thing that I do think Chelsea need to try and make the game like is the opposite of what we might traditionally think Atletico are like. So instead of Atletico sitting back, soaking up pressure and bombing forward, we want them to be coming on to Chelsea and Chelsea can hit them on the transition because once Llorente and Correa go up front, you're left with Hermoso, Lodi, Felipe, and Savic at the back, which in a system they're good, but on a transition they're not quick. Maybe besides Hermoso, and that's where Atletico can really get caught out. And the same with Saul Niguez and Koke. They get through a lot of work in midfield, but they're not the fastest players. They're not like I think Lewis mentioned. It's not like Michael Essien. They're not going to be able to track back very quickly. So I think Chelsea, what they need to do is sit back and let these players come forward. Let Azpilicueta mark Felix, whether he comes up here or drops deep, and that way they can catch him on the break against this slow back four.
That is a very interesting shout, although that, if anything, makes me think maybe we should go with Reece James at right wing back, to be honest, if we sit and try to soak up pressure. A quick question here by Kevin. Do Atletico press? As far as I'm aware, no. But if you have thought on that as well, Alex, because not proper research, but when I look through their games, more often than not, they've actually played a 3-1-4-2 rather than a 3 up front, and have had Kondogbia kind of behind Saul and Koke. Do you just see that as almost impossible for them to do that tomorrow? And if they do, what would that necessarily change?
Okay, so if they do, they're going to be a bit more limited up front. And to answer that question, I personally think they're going to play a little bit more of an attacking lineup, like I just mentioned, just because this is their game where they need to. I know it's not a home leg, but it's where they need to get some goals. And Simeone knows he has enough in the rest of the team to cover for 4 attacking players instead of 3, right? But so one thinking with that is they might, if they do have the holding midfield there, it's going to be a bit more limited up front. What's the second part of the question? Sorry, slipped my mind a bit.
No, just if they do that, how they will hurt us differently in attack, because obviously then they won't have the Correa Llorente too. They will just have a Suarez Felix and then the wing backs.
Okay, so yeah, if Correa doesn't play, then he's quite a creative player. So they're probably going to be looking less to dominate the ball. And actually, you mentioned about the pressing thing. Atletico, when they're playing against weaker teams, they press quite high. And you're kind of right. When it's like a Bayern Munich or someone, they're going to drop back a bit. But Marcos Llorente will still be probably the most dangerous player. He exploited it against Barcelona earlier this season. Atletico won, I think, 2-1 in the end. In the first 25 minutes, he was causing havoc because what was happening is that Atletico they were keeping the ball well, but they were not really causing much. Then Llorente would stick from right wing back, drive through the centre, almost like a Trent Alexander-Arnold run, drive through the centre, get in behind, and then all of a sudden the Barcelona defenders are looking behind them, they don't know what's happening. And I think whatever happens, whatever formation they're going to play tomorrow, he's one of the key threats. That's why, even though Felix on paper is a key threat, I think he'll be contained well by Azpilicueta just because he's a right back / centre back. Llorente will be playing off the right. He could be quite deadly against Alonso or even against Chilwell. They'll need to be extra careful with that. But just on Tuchel quickly as well, because obviously I've watched a lot of Tuchel. I watched Tuchel's PSG all the way through the Champions League run. You were asking earlier about the different system thing. I just want to say you can expect him to do something mental. I mean, he will. In these games, he likes to pull a surprise. With PSG, he played 15 games on the bounce in a 4-4-2. Then against Dortmund, he switched to a 3 at the back. If he feels he needs to make a change in a similar way to Pep Guardiola, he will make the change. And at times, I thought that was a bit to the team's detriment. He can be almost a bit too defensive. So maybe we probably will see Reece James at right wing back rather. But yeah, with our predictions, I think we're going to get 75% of it right. But he could also, he might literally just not play any striker. He might just play Pulisic and Hudson-Odoi if he thinks the same way I think, that he's just going to try and drive at the defence. So expect some surprises and some meltdowns on Twitter when the lineup gets posted.
There's a lot of interesting things that you've said there, and I will want to get yours, Matisse's and Lewis's thoughts on that in just a second. By the way, guys, 230 people watching. Big up yourselves. Smash the like button. Let's get to 100 likes right now. Just go down below, click the like button. Doesn't cost you any time. Doesn't cost you any money. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're on the road to 10k, so the more of you that subscribe, the quicker we get there. Big up yourselves. Check out Matisse. Of course, his link is even in the title. Lewis's name is too long, so I had to put it in the description. Simple as that. Sorry, bro. But subscribe to him, and obviously check out Alex on Twitter as well. But with all of that said now, Matisse, how do you think the game will go? Like, in terms of, just talk us through, do you think it will stay 0-0 for ages? Do you think either one will get an early goal? Do you think we'll sit back, like Alex suggested we maybe should do? Do you think we'll be aggressive, counter press, try to attack, like we've done in every game so far, really? And how do you think the game will play out?
I would like us to sit back a bit more, and that would have been an even better strategy had Thiago Silva been fit, because I think a low block with someone like him managing it would have been a lot better than without him. So now I'm asking us to sit back with a back three that I'm not really confident in against top opposition like Suarez, like Felix. Yes, they've been good on this run, but who have they really come up against? They haven't come up against Harry Kane at Tottenham because he was injured. The rest of the fixtures were winnable games against front players that were not Luis Suarez or João Felix. Let's keep it real. So I'm asking them to do a lot already, let alone then set up in a low block and have to defend a bit more than they're used to. The reason why I prefer us to just drop off a little bit is because we're not good at defeating low blocks. And then on top of that, then making it an Atletico low block with an Oblak in goal, I just don't see us scoring. So the best opportunity we have to really get a goal in this game for me is for us to counter-attack. And if you're counter-attacking with a Hudson-Odoi, a Mason Mount, a Timo Werner type player, even Chilwell, if he plays, who's quite quick, then I think you've got more of a chance of putting yourself in those 1v1 situations that were mentioned earlier in terms of ground duels not being won 50% of the time from those Atletico defenders, and then maybe not being good individually, but in a shape they are. If we can go counter-attack them, then you might get some joy. And that's, I think, what we tried to do. Well, for Conte, actually, we actually had a bit more of the ball, which we wasn't used to because Atletico wanted to sit. But I think if we, I'm not saying we should sit and just defend, suffer ball, but just take it back 20 yards and just feel it out a little bit more, be a bit more cautious with it, and try and find some space in behind and counter. And then it comes to making the right decisions as well in open play. If we are making a counter attack, we need to make sure that we find the right person and don't screw up the final ball and put it behind someone or something like that. Reece James is an interesting one because, again, that João Felix point is huge. He's going to operate in those areas. So obviously, defensively, I'd rather have Reece James and Callum Hudson-Odoi against João Felix. But it all comes down to the left wing back is. If it's Alonso, then you go Reece James for me, because Alonso, you don't want to involve in general play. You let him kind of just ghost up front slowly and then find his way at the back post. You don't really want to funnel the ball through him in possession, and then you can afford to go with a more defensive right wing back. If you go with Chilwell, who could be good going forward, but he's not like Alonso in that respect. I don't think he's going to be so gung-ho, especially on a Champions League night as well. It's not something that he's used to, so I don't think he's just going to abandon ship like that. Then maybe you need a Hudson-Odoi. But again, I wouldn't even be surprised to see Reece James a right wing back. And like I said, I'm not a massive fan of it so far from what I've seen, but he can improve in the role. So I expect him to get better regardless, because he's just a good footballer. But yeah, the key will be just how clinical we are, which that's the one thing I'm not confident about. And then B, how we deal with João Felix, because if we allow him to run the show, and if he's in the mood and he's fully confident, and we get him, let him have loads of touches, and he starts having a massive influence on the game, he's not Mason Mount. Mason Mount is still learning the final ball. He will make the final ball. He will make the final pass, and he'll score. So that will be the issue.
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree. The only thing that I have my hesitations on in terms of why I'm not sure I want us to sit a bit deeper is because I trust our team more in terms of pressing, counter-pressing, being in possession. I trust us more to not concede that way than I trust us to not concede with defending, especially without Thiago Silva. There's very few players in this team that I trust in doing that. Especially like we touched on earlier, that all of us actually prefer a Kovacic-Jorginho midfield too. If we're going to sit deep, that is kind of a bit crazy. I mean, first of all, thank you for the donation, saying Atletico would love to get an early goal like they did away at Liverpool, obviously, when they beat them. But they would probably take a 0-0 also. Oh, they would love a 0-0. And then come to the bridge, nick one, and end of story. That's why we can't have a 0-0. That's why that is such an important question. And I just want to bring that up before I get your thoughts on the whole thing as well, Lewis. Michael said, how do we move the ball forward if they cut off Kovacic and Jorginho, presuming them two will start? My personal opinion is cutting players off only works if you let them, especially cutting two off. Because to cut off our two DMs means they have to be very aggressive. Yeah. And I don't think they will be quite that aggressive. Even if they press us a bit, I don't think they will be that aggressive. And Kovacic and Jorginho need to just move. If they move a lot, they won't be cut off.
Just to add, yeah, that's a really good point. And just to add that, because I got to go soon. Jorginho and Kovar, I know on the ball we credit them as well in terms of we need to have possession to really get the best out of them. But if we're more compact and we're sitting in a bit deeper, that helps them in the respect where they're not going to get dragged in transition, which could potentially happen if we're in possession and we play a high-ish line and then we lose the ball and João Felix is in those pockets. And in transition, we know those two are not quick. We could lose out there. But even still as well, there's nobody better to, in a low block, if we win the ball back and we need to evade a press. Jorginho and Kovar are quite press resistant, especially Kovacic, but they're quite press resistant as a duo. So they should be able to maneuver the ball in those triangles. And then once we get past that initial, obviously we're going to be allowing them onto us. So they're going to have a lot of players in our half. Once we get around that, it's very risky football, I understand. But if we get around that first initial, press where they try to get the ball back because they're so high up the pitch, then if you evade that and you get into the pockets of space with Werner and Mount and counter, you have an opportunity to get in behind. And I know you're saying, obviously, in possession, we're stronger defensively. Of course we are as well, because you've seen with the first few games, we haven't conceded any goals when we've had the majority of the ball. I think against Southampton, we had something like nearly 70% possession. However, with the ball, I feel like we're also less likely to score. So it's like you're kind of juggling between, okay, we have the ball, we might be better defensively because they don't have the ball. But if we have the ball, are we going to score and get past their low block and Oblak? Highly unlikely. If you're going to score against Oblak with this attack that isn't very clinical, you need to be creating 1v1s and almost potentially 2v1s. I'm talking running in behind Fernando Torres opportunities or running in behind and another person running alongside in a tap-in situation as well. We just roll it across goal. It's FIFA type stuff. You're going to need that. Otherwise, I don't think just with regular shots you're going to get past Oblak. So, yeah, those are my final thoughts just before I head out.
Yeah, I definitely get what you're saying. I'm just not sure we're good at counter-attacking because it feels like when we counter-attack, the decision-making is arguably even more difficult and needs to happen quicker because to not beat the offside, the run is there now. And if you wait too long, you bottled it. That's why I'm not sure I trust it. Plus finishing, because if you attack a low block, as much as I agree with you, we struggle to break it down. There are always weird ways you can get a goal. You're more likely to get a pen. You're more likely to get a deflection goal. You're more likely to get corners and get one of that, even though Alex touched on it. Their defenders are really good at, in the air. So, set piece goals are probably rather unlikely. So it's just a mix. And I think that's why it's such an interesting game. But Matisse, I know you need to head off. So massively appreciate you hopping on. Subscribe to Matisse. His link is in the title. Subscribe to him. Thank you for coming on. We'll talk to you soon. And just for coming on.
Take care, good luck, boys. See you guys later in a bit.
Love.
See ya. There you go. Before I get Lewis's thoughts on this, again, guys, stick around. We're still going to be live for a little minute longer, just because Matisse is gone. No need for you to leave. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're about to hit 100 likes, or have we just now? I don't know. We have hit it. So let's go for 150. Why not? Go on then, if you haven't already. Doesn't cost you any money, barely cost you any time. Go do that. Like Strip Bear said, big up yourself, by the way. Lewis, after everything Matisse have said and Alex have said, how do you think the game will go? Would you like to have this sit in a bit deeper approach and try to hit them on the break? How do you think we should approach the game? And how do you think the game will go? Will either team get an early goal? Will it stay 0-0 for long? How do you think it will all pan out?
First goal wins. That's the way I see it, because I think you're lucky to even see more than one goal in this sort of game. It's going to be really tight for both teams. I'm not worried about us defensively, to be honest, other than the left-hand side, of course, but that just comes with the personnel that we have on that side anyway. We're going to struggle. My biggest worry is going forward. It's the final third that's always going to scare me because we just ain't clinical. We miss a lot of runs and our final ball can be good, but really isn't consistent enough for me to be confident in it. So I don't know. It screams a 0-0 or 1-0 just because of that, because if you were to tell me that back three and in that system keeps a clean sheet, I wouldn't necessarily be shocked about it because they've been a confident back three the last few weeks. So I could back them to go into sort of game and have a similar result as well. No howlers, please. But if we got a ball playing centre back in there, I feel like it changes the game a little bit more for us. So I'd be a little bit more confident. Midfield, Jovic, I don't think it would be impossible for them to shut them out, but I do think they'd have a really tough job of doing it. So I'd be more confident seeing the pair of them play. But we're looking at very small differences between the pair of what could separate the win or a draw. So I don't know. So it's a 1-0 win either side or a 0-0.
Yeah, I do see what you're saying. I would, I agree with Matisse in terms of team, but that is my head if we don't sit too much. If we do actually decide to sit, I wouldn't hate a Kante Kovacic, because if the whole team is told to sit, neither of them will roam. And if they're both sit, I think that might actually be better than having Jorginho in there, or Kante Jorginho, in terms of let Kante do the breaking up and then Jorginho try to find the through ball, the long ball, in terms to help us counter-attacking. But if we don't counter-attack, I don't want them. But if we're actually going to counter-attack, I would probably prefer that to Kovacic, Jorginho, because press resisted is all well and good. But if we're going to sit and counter-attack, that's not as important, in my opinion. And then we need different qualities on the pitch more so.
I just don't see us counter-attacking in this sort of game.
I don't see either. I'm just saying if we do.
Nah,
I mean, Alex is obviously... Alex has obviously made that point even before the Spurs game when we were doing a watch-along on my channel, saying Tuchel in big games does every now and again like to have a defensive approach. Obviously, it depends, on the team to some extent, on the opponent to some extent. It's almost a bit like with Spurs with Atletico when you said, he might be defensive. And I was like, yeah, but it's Jose. You can't be more defensive than them, so we will end up having 65 to 70% of the ball. And it's somewhat like that with Atletico. I know they're a bit out there, but I'm not sure how their form will affect their confidence as well, because they've been shipping goals in the last 7 or 8 games. They really have. In terms of shipping goals, maybe not to the extent that we did in the last few weeks on a Lampard, but I think they're on 16 goals conceded in La Liga, and I think 10 of them have been in the last 7 games. So, they're conceding goals. Lost 2-0 last weekend. I think the game before that was a 2-2 draw. They won the one before that, but they always conceded one. They won 2-1 or something, or 3-1, but they always conceded one. So I don't see it as absolutely impossible to score. And if the likes of Levante can, as much as our forwards aren't in most brilliant of form, they can score. Do you know what I mean? Even if it needs some silly penalty. And the fact that Jimenez is injured as well, in my opinion, should increase that chance as well. But I think we're going to be... And by the way, if Yusuf or whoever's in the chat, if you want to let me sign out with a couple of quick fire questions, do put them in the chat. I do enjoy that. So put some of that in the chat if you fancy it. Because now I think we're going to have Alex let some final thoughts and then going to go to score predictions, which I actually forgot to get Matisse's, but oh well. We'll see. Alex, do you have any final thoughts on what we said, especially now that OS, by the way, thank you for the donation, saying 3-1-4-2. Interesting. Saying Jorginho behind Kante Kovacic. It's an interesting way to go about it. And if we're going to sit, and like Alex said, 3-1-4-2, and then a Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi front 2, you never know. Could do it. But do you see that as some sort of a chance in happening? Or do you think it would work if we did it?
It could work. You never know. I think... So I was going to give a score prediction here as well, final thoughts, because I'm going to keep it a bit shorter. I think, obviously, I've been backing Tuchel from moment one. Really excited when he moved to the Premier League. And I think this game will show he's the level of coach Chelsea have. And I think that despite everything said, despite the fact that Chelsea could actually get literally torn apart on the left-hand side, Alonso could retire after this game. I think Chelsea will... I think tomorrow is going to be a 1-1 draw. Lewis cheering. I think tomorrow is going to be a 1-1 draw. I'm not sure about the home leg, but I do actually back Chelsea to go through overall. I think they have enough, and even though they're in good mixed form and they're in slightly okay form at the moment, they've had bad form at the moment. This is still a really talented squad that are just feeling unconfident. And I mean, I remember watching the last Chelsea Atletico match where Michy Batshuayi scored a last-minute winner, and if he can score against Jan Oblak, I think Timo Werner can. So I'm backing Chelsea over these 2 legs.
See, if we get a 1-1 tomorrow, I'm backing us as well. Thiago Silva will be back for the second leg, and we do a Roberto Di Matteo Chelsea, and we just park that bloody bus, get a 0-0 at home, and go to the next round. I don't care what we have to do. Park that bus. just get Bakayoko back, get everyone back, and just park it. I don't care. If we get a 1-1 tomorrow, I'm gassed. Do you know what I mean? I'm already gassed. And that's the weird thing about football, really, isn't it? We was all fuming and disappointed after 1-1 against Southampton. 3 days later, we're gassed with the 1-1. It's weird, isn't it? But Lewis, score prediction. A little bit more to add as a last thought. I haven't really seen any quickfire questions. So if anyone, again, if you want to throw that in, do so. Otherwise, we're going to leave it after our score predictions. But Lou, give it to me. What you're saying?
1-0 Chelsea. Just me being confident in Chelsea, but I couldn't see more than 1 goal in this game anyway. So we take the away goal and we move.
Okay. My score prediction is a 2-1 for Chelsea. I think Atletico haven't been in the best form in terms of conceding. They have a couple of important players out injured. And I think, yes, we haven't been good in converting our chances, but we're only, and I know what all of us keep saying this, we're only that one moment away where the final pass just starts clicking. Once that starts clicking, we are capable of putting 4-5 past every team we play. Doesn't matter whether it's Atletico, Burnley, or Southampton. We're capable of doing that because we create the half chances and the chances. We just don't take them. But we've done that against every team we've played, even under Frank, to be honest, for the most part. Obviously, the last couple of weeks, maybe not. But other than that, we have such good players. We create the chances. It's either just the finish is awful or the last pass ain't there. But it's just, and that's why it's so difficult for me to ever sit here and say, oh, we're going to not score and it's going to be, because if a pass at times is just 1 or 2 inches in a different direction, that means it's a guaranteed goal. Just so far, the pass hasn't been one of those 1-2 inches in the right direction. And that's why it's frustrating. But I feel like, not like we're going to batter Atletico tomorrow, not at all. But I do think that, a bit more goals than maybe Lewis expects just because of what Atletico have been doing recently, plus Jimenez being injured and, some others not being in the best of form. Very intrigued to see how they line up. Will they mirror our 3-4-1-2 or 2-1 rather, or will they go with a 3-1-4-2 or 3-5-2? Just make it simpler, right? Will be interesting to me. But yeah, like I said, my score prediction is a 2-1. I haven't seen a what's it called? A quick fire question. So I'm going to just round it out here. If it turns up by then, I'm going to go with that. But I really appreciate every single one of you that has tuned in. Viewers have been very good today, so I did enjoy that a lot. Subscribe if you haven't already. We hit 8,500 subscribers yesterday. Still on the road to 10,000. So make sure you subscribe. The more of you that sub, the quicker we get there and the less I will bother you about it. So just subscribe and, we're all happy. Smash the like button. I think we're, on the verge of getting to 150. I think we're on 120 something. We are on, let me let the thing just update, 128. So, just 22 away. So 22 of you at least. Go down below, smash the like button. And, we move from there. Alex, massively appreciate you coming on. Massively appreciate you sharing your insight. As the chat's big up as well. Big up for myself as well. Obviously, we are Chelsea fans. I do focus more on Chelsea than I do on anybody else. So hence why I sometimes, when it suits, love to get someone like Alex on who is able to focus on other things more and give us some insight that we wouldn't have otherwise. And of course, partner in crime, Lewis, big up to yourself for coming on. Hope you're well. Have a good day, everybody. Have a good evening, everybody. Big up for the last donation, Michael. Big up yourself, bro. You're cool. But yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you guys for watching. And up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards. Let's hope we can get a good result tomorrow. And I'll see you next time.